Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to US Law Live, the official US Law podcast of the US Law Network. This podcast is brought to you by our corporate partners, SCA Limited, American Legal Records, Arcadia Settlement Group, Immersion Legal, Marshall Investigative, and MDD Forensic Accountants. We very much appreciate your sponsorship and your partnership through the US Law Network. I'm here. My name is Nick Rauch. I'm a lawyer at the Larson King firm. I'm here with the lovely Jessica Dark, who is my co-host from the Pierce Couch Firm in Oklahoma. Jess, how are you?
Hello, Nick. I'm good. And thank you all for tuning in today. We're really excited for a very special guest. Give him a good intro, Nick.
We are joined by the chair of the entire U.S. Law Network, Ken Wingate. Ken, how you doing,
Woo!
buddy?
Well, hello, both of you. Hello, friends. What a pleasure to be with you. And I'm excited about this program, not only for today, but for all that you're doing to help pull the network together, keep us more personally acquainted with one another, our firms and the individuals within them, certainly the corporate partners that you've already mentioned. So let's get started.
I love it. Ken, thank you for joining us today. And we know you've got a busy schedule, and Lord knows you're going all about the U.S. Law Network now, serving as chair. We're looking forward to getting to know you on kind of a personal level and a practice level to start, just to introduce our guests. So, Ken, kind of tell us how you came up through the law, what your practice and your focus is now. I know you do a lot of trust and estates work, and kind of how you've come up through the practice of law to get to where you're at now.
Sure. Well, again, thank you for this opportunity. And I look forward to hearing some from you as well, by the way, Nick and Jess. So don't think that this is a one-way street. So I started in the practice of law coming at life from the tax side of things. I was a certified public accountant working in Charleston, South Carolina, lovely city, and decided that lawyers were having more fun than the accountants,
I believe
which
that.
40 years later, I would say has absolutely held to be true. I have loved my career. I would do it again 100 times out of 100. I started with a really large law firm here in South Carolina and was very fortunate as a young lawyer to be elevated to the head of the estate planning, or what we called the wealth transfer tax planning department of the law firm. So I was overseeing 7 offices in 2 states, the Carolinas, and was able to quickly hone in on wealth transfer planning. So I represent and have for a good while large numbers of closely held companies, privately held, the owners, the individuals, the families. I love working with businesses of all sorts, doing their tax planning, doing their corporate formations, dissolutions. I quickly found out that not many of us on the planning side were interested in going into the courtroom. And so when my clients would have difficulty breaking up an LLC with their real estate investment partners or their physician practice or what have you, the fights over valuation and terms of buyout, and has there been minority shareholder oppression and all of those things, I said, well, if I can't find someone to litigate it for me, I'll go do it myself. And so that has become almost 50% of my practice is the business litigation side. And to me, it's a great, fun, fairly broad mix of things because I'll go into the courtroom, but I also do the business formations. I do a lot of wills, trusts, and estates that have handled some very large, high-profile estates that have taken me to just fascinating places, both around the world, but also in persons in my clients' lives. So it's been a joy. It's been a fun practice. And I'm thrilled to still be doing it and plan to keep doing it for quite some time because I just love doing it.
That's awesome. How long have you been with Sweeny Wingate?
So Bill Sweeny and Ken Wingate and Mark Barrow, Sweeny, Wingate, and Barrow, started this firm in 1993. We were friends. We were all at large law firms, Jess, and had great partners, had great clients, were doing great work, but thought, we could do this maybe in a smaller, more collegial context where we really knew all of our partners, knew all of our employees and staff, and have a family-friendly, community-involved kind of focus on a whole life in a community where we certainly, as lawyers and officers of the court, are representing clients diligently, doing good legal work, but also have time for the fun and for the family and for the community, giving back so that it's not just taking, but giving. And that's sort of the environment, the ethos, if you want to call it that, of what Bill Sweeny and Ken Wingate and Mark Barrow have tried to create. And we've been very blessed. We've had a lot of growth, and I keep using the word fun, but it just really is a joyful opportunity to serve others and to do well, certainly for ourselves, for our families, but beyond that, to give back to the community. So we try to make the environment of workplace a fun and safe place for all of our employees to learn and to grow together and to help one another out.
That's really great to hear. And I am a first generation lawyer. I can tell you that I had no idea what law firm life was like, or that there was even this whole career path available. I think it's really interesting that you started out in a really big market or multiple offices firm to come and start your own. I think that's really impressive. And it seems like you've done a pretty good job to still be kicking it after all these years, 1993. I won't tell you what grade Nick or I were in, but we're proud of you, Ken. Keep it up.
Well, trying to stay healthy, stay active, stay fit, keep learning new things, keep challenging ourselves. There's always more to learn and more networking to do. Coming back to the whole concept of a network, you can never know too many people as a professional. And it's fun to see how these connections come back around so very often in life.
I really think that's a great part of this podcast, getting to spend a little bit extra time with the members or the sponsors, the partners. And for that, any of our listeners, if you are interested in serving as a guest, feel free to email anyone at US Law, really. Connie, Cheryl, Roger, me, Nick. We love to hear from everyone and get everyone's perspective on what's going on in our network, but also around the country.
Roger Yaffe will be a little upset because he's been worked over multiple times, I think, so getting towards the bottom. So at some point, Roger will have to join us. But Ken, I'm curious, we always talk about future planning, at least at our firm, and I think each of our firms across the nation are talking about internally within our teams and our firms, how do we grow? And we're going to get to US Law in a little bit because I love your message that you gave to us in Vancouver. We're going to hit on the main points of that. I am curious at your own firm, right? All of us have this discussion about future planning and forward and the growth of the firm. What are areas you're seeing? I know you've served in leadership within your firm. What are areas you're seeing your firm is growing into, and what are the next few years you think look like for folks in South Carolina?
That's a great question. So I have served continuously as the managing partner of the firm because I do have that accounting background for one thing, sort of the numbers guy, but beyond that, more of an office practice than the litigator partners of mine have had. And the court schedules make it very difficult to do a lot of the day-to-day check signing and dealing with employee matters and things of that sort. So that being said, we are not a completely full-service law firm. We do not do any criminal work. We do not do any domestic work. And within the civil arena, we focus, as most U.S. law members, almost exclusively on the defense side of things. We've certainly, early in our days, did have a lot of insurance defense work. We still have a lot of that, and it's still great training for young lawyers, but we've diversified and expanded into a lot of self-insured and, as I've said already, closely held, very large, some largest in the world, but still closely held corporations. And to that end, business planning, tax planning, mergers and acquisitions, a lot of other avenues on the business side, in addition to the full panoply of medical malpractice defense work, construction defense work, a lot of transportation defense work, a lot of retail, a lot of products liability, a lot of premises liability, those things that go along with it. So diversifying as we grow to have differing sources of income streams and to give each lawyer an opportunity to focus in the areas that they seem drawn to and best able to be interested and involved, and it fits their personality and their work style and their lifestyle. And so we try not to pigeonhole people and let them grow into the kind of lawyers that they would like to be, whether it's on the business side or the litigation side or somewhere in between.
Well, you're doing a heck of a job. I know I've spent time through events and other things with Ryan Holt and Rich McLaughlin and Marshall Crane. Special shout out to those guys. They're doing a fantastic job. And so that I know the future is bright for your firm, and it's good to hear the growth is strong and what you're looking to into the future. We're going to segue now, like crazy, we've been going 10 minutes. We're going to segue to our next section, Ken, which we're going to talk about. Usually this is designated for a topic that the host or the guest brings to us that we then talk about as a group. And what we told you in advance of this was both Jess and I were very much intrigued about the message that you gave in Vancouver about your focus for the next year and the sort of full court press that you had placed. What I thought was awesome was I was just in Nashville for the trucking exchange, and there were basketballs on each table that had the message on it. And I thought that was so cool. I was a little upset we don't get a signed Ken Wingate basketball. I'll have to make a request for that at some time, but I think if you'd start kind of
That can be arranged. There is a price,
right. Okay,
but it can be arranged.
We'll donate it to the foundation. That's what we'll
Foundation.
do.
There you go.
But I'm curious, Ken, for those who maybe weren't at Vancouver or who have been reading your emails maybe and hadn't dove into the topic, maybe you can walk us through your hopes for the next year and how that full court press message came about.
I'd be glad to. When I was asked to serve as chair, each chair does come up with a theme, and mine was instantaneous. I mean, I'd like to say there was a lot of thought behind it, but that just would not be true. As a parent, I had among my three children, a youngest daughter who was playing a church league basketball on a basketball team. And it was a sweet little group of girls, and they looked beautiful in their uniforms and hair bows. And the coach was very nice and kind and wanted all of them to play. And one game they went against a team that was coached by I'll call it a drill sergeant. And the other team came out minute one, full court press, and stayed in that mode throughout the game. And my daughter's poor team lost something like 48-2. And I thought, what a beautiful illustration. Let's flip it to the positive side of full energy with focus, with dedicated intentionality about every minute from the whistle that starts the game, so to speak, to the buzzer that ends the game, from the opening toss to the last basket. Let's go all out. And so from that, what I would love to see for U.S. law is that we fill out our roster, that we complete all open jurisdictions. And that's been a big point of emphasis and effort in these months since Vancouver. And we have a couple of announcements getting ready to come out by the time of the member meeting along those lines. Secondly, we really, I think, can better maximize what I call shot opportunities. We're a business development group, and firms bringing clients to the meetings, whether it's a conference, whether it's an exchange, whether it's a forum, whether it's an experience. That is everyone bringing a quality client with them in order to introduce to other similar great law firms across the country, across North America and beyond, with also our TELFA partners. A third area that I wanted in that full court press, there are 5 points, just like there are 5 players on a basketball court. And by the way, Nick and Jess, we are very soon headed into March Madness, so this is all very timely.
Very
It is,
timely.
but don't you forget about the NBA playoffs. I don't know if you've heard of the Oklahoma City Thunder, but they're looking good. And I'm hoping that this ages well when it comes out.
I hear the thunder rolling. I think there's going to be good things. But with that, I think passing the ball, cross training, we have firms who are excellent, say a transportation firm. And my predecessor, Oscar Cabanas at Wickersmith in Florida, tells a great story of his firm did not have much depth on the bench in the transportation area. But upon getting involved in U.S. law, they were able to send good lawyers to training, continuing education, meeting with clients who have transportation needs. And he will tell you that they actually developed a much more robust transportation practice. So it's not only meeting clients and those kinds of shot opportunities, but it's this cross training in growing into areas where a firm has individuals who would be interested. A fourth area is just knowing your statistics. Any good basketball coach knows which players have the highest free throw shooting percentages, etc., when it's time to send someone into the game. What is your firm's, what is my firm's return on investment? How much money do we spend on U.S. law? And what are we getting back for it? And so that largely led this year to our financial model that is new, where we would minimize the level of investment, maximize the certainty by making it a fixed price for the year rather than having the pre-conference and post-conference billings, and no one really knew exactly. They knew sort of, but not exactly what they were getting in for financially as a commitment. So let's look at what we're investing and what we are receiving and calculate that ROI. And then last of all, I've got to conclude the 5 points with number 5, teamwork, to grow our firms in collegiality, in cooperation, and in communication. As our firms are growing and more of us are acquiring other firms or developing in another location outside of our primary U.S. law jurisdiction, another office, it's radically ever more important that we communicate in advance with one another, that we collaborate with one another. A beautiful example, again, I'll go to Wickersmith from last year, where Wickersmith, the Florida firm, had a large client who requested they open a Birmingham office. Carr Allison, the Alabama firm, has clients who've requested that they open a Miami office. So here are two neighbors sort of coming across into each other's jurisdictions, but did it so properly, so collegially, if that's a right descriptive word, and in such a collaborative, there's my best word to describe how they worked together. They're not fighting each other. They're not undercutting each other. They're not stabbing each other in the back. They're actively referring cases to one another in the office, in the city, where they each have, I'll call it, their larger specialties, and conflict cases as well as non-core work matters can easily be referred over. And with the tide rising, all boats are going with it. And that's the beauty of this model. So those are the points, if you want to call them, the major areas of emphasis behind the Full Court Press. And I just love the network. I'm excited about what's going on. And I like watching this take on a larger life.
Well, we are lucky to have you as our head coach this season, Ken.
Well, it sounds like by that designation, you're looking to retire me, Jess. I don't know.
Oh, no. If you want to stick around, I'm sure we can extend your contract. I'll have to ask Roger. I'm not sure the rules.
If the money is right,
NIL
I
money.
would do it in a heartbeat. No, it's such a pleasure. I'm serious. It's a labor of love, and I do plan to stick around for a good little while. So you may want to get rid of me before it's all over.
No, I think the message that you shared is an important one, because I think it focuses to one word you used that stuck out to me is being intentional, right? And I think that gets missed sometimes. And what I took from your message, which is very parallel to what you just gave us here on the podcast when we were in Vancouver, was about being intentional about your time as a part of the network and how that can really grow and really change the experience here. And so, the other thing we do have too, Ken, is we have new groups of lawyers who are starting either to get into U.S. law, or maybe they just joined and are starting to go to events this year. For those groups of folks who maybe have gone just to one, or maybe are just getting into our rotation of firms coming to the events, what advice would you give to new members that are coming into our network that are going to go to these events for the first time? And what advice would you give them about kind of getting into the fray with firms from across the country in this network?
What a great question. I think a couple of things. I would always recommend that lawyers, whether it's your first U.S. Law conference or your 50th, pre-plan, really do carefully review the registration lists and client biographies and find out who will be there, in what area do they work geographically, as well as their product or their levels of and areas of activity. Who do you want to meet? And make it very purposeful to spend time during the sessions or in the afternoon activities or in the evening dinners and cocktail parties, etc., to get to know those individuals personally. So I'd say pre-planning. While there, I would say be aggressive and intentional about networking. It is not time, though it's tempting, to simply hang with your friends, your buddies, your pals, the clique that is most frequently the fun people that you're so glad to see because you do love them and appreciate them and enjoy them.
Fully.
But it's time to meet new people. And so the balance of the new and the old needs to remain a focus always. And then after the event, I call it post-review, and that is talk to your partners back at the firm about who you met, who you should follow up with, reach out to the primary contact partner or trusted advisor for that client, and make sure that they're good with you reaching out and speaking directly to the client. And I've never seen maybe one occasion out of thousands, that request turned down for some reason. But to follow up so that you do build on that relationship. And it's easy. I say it's easy. It happens almost every time we go to a conference. We come home with new files. We come home being added to someone's panel counsel list in a certain area of practice. Whatever it may be, there is a positive outcome from pre, during, and post planning and review to hit it with focus.
I think that's really, really helpful. Whenever I first started going, I kind of found someone who helped give me some of those same tips. And I think I've really seen a lot of benefit from the coming back to your firm and explaining the benefits. There's always some questions, like you mentioned earlier, of what are we getting out of this? And we're getting so much out of this that it's really important to make sure our partners, our other lawyers, our leadership are aware of the benefits if they happen to be the ones that aren't participating. I wanted to take it out to a little broader of a question, Ken, if you don't mind. You mentioned you had 3 children. You've obviously been practicing pretty a lengthy amount of time, but obviously you've put in the work, you've put in the time.
This is my 40th year as a lawyer.
I mean, 40 years, you've got family. Kind of, can you explain to us how have you balanced the demands of this practice, this job that is very rewarding, but also very demanding, with your family life? And you can boil it down to, how do you balance your commitments with U.S. law throughout the years and your family life?
Well, that's a great question, Jess. Thank you. As my children were growing, we would routinely have them coming to the office. For a long time, my wife, who's also a CPA, was the CFO for our law firm. So mom and dad were at the office at different times very regularly. So they were very much at home here. The kids, we have a kid-friendly, family-friendly environment. We even have a few dogs that will wander around every now and then. I'm not talking about the children, but the four-legged variety. And so then when they became teenagers, we invited them to work here as runners, work as couriers during their college or late high school years so that they could be around us but get a taste of what our work life was like. I would routinely take a child with me with the client's advance permission to client meetings. And some of my great memories are some of the clients, whether they were large owners of corporations or individuals with estate planning needs, who would welcome having a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old sitting with us at lunch, asking them questions and learning about how to interact with adults and what they do for a living. So a broad advocacy for being in our world, but then committed to taking time away from this office, put it on the shelf, take the cell phone and turn it off. And family vacation weeks and travel together were always a big priority for us as well. And so that there was a relationship outside of what mom and dad do for a living that was being encouraged, and athletic events together, going to their games. I would work late at night so that I could take time in the mid-afternoon to go see the cheerleader cheerleading, the daughter who's cheering, or the one playing basketball, or the son playing baseball or football or whatever it may be. And therefore, family commitment and those personal times, whatever they look like for each individual lawyer, should really be key. I think we need to stay healthy, and there'll be an upcoming event of Live Well, which we partner with our corporate partner you've already mentioned, SEA, because staying healthy and staying mentally sharp and physically able to do the stressful work of lawyering is a service to our clients and to our families as well. So it is holistic. It's what goes on in the office, what goes on outside of the office, what happens in the family. All of it the gears have to mesh. It has to fit well and work well to be a well-oiled machine.
That's really great. I really appreciate that. And I think that it's something that I like to keep at the forefront of everyone's minds of litigation's hard, litigation's demanding. I think we see a lot
So
of
stressful.
I think we see a lot of female lawyers leaving litigation because, in theory, it is more time consuming than other areas of law. And I think one of the best things about our kind of areas of practice at my firm and probably most of our US law firms is that it can be flexible. If we're in trial, if we're in depositions, obviously we're stuck there. But just like you say, I missed I left work the other day to go do library duty at my son's elementary
Good
school.
for you.
And then later that night, I logged on, I handled my emails, I responded. So it's just something I like to keep in everyone's mind, especially the female lawyers' minds, that we can have a family, we can spend just as much time with them, but also have this rewarding and stressful sometimes job.
The term life-work balance can be sort of pejorative or overused, but it really is critically important.
Yeah.
And as Stephen Covey said in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, take time to sharpen the saw. If you cut with a dull knife, it's just exhausting and it goes nowhere. But to rest, to relax, to recreate, and mix fun into it with good hard work is a great combination. And that flexibility for women, Jess, that you bring up, I'm such a huge advocate for. And that's one reason I wanted the smaller firm environment where I could have more of an influence on I'll call it the rules or the opportunities. Let's be positive, not negative, of yes, be flexible. Heck yes, let's be flexible. And if someone wants to work 50% of the time, come on. 75% of the time, most welcomed. So make it work for you, but let's do it together.
I love it. Well, Ken, we're almost out of time. So before we let you go, someone told me that you are an avid outdoorsman, hunter and fisher, and I'm curious to see what you've got on your calendar for this year, getting out there in the woods.
Well, several things. Always the highlight for me each year is in September. I am an archery hunter and I love going out west, big game hunting. So I've done black bear hunting. I've done the highlight each year is elk hunting. So one of my son and I, one of my three children, he's a busy dentist. He's a professional as well. His wife is a dentist. But we take time every year for a father-son week together, camping, hiking, and hunting.
Oh man.
And he has four daughters, and he says to me, Dad, sometimes I just need to get out in the woods and kill something. No, all in fun, but it keeps us exercising all year, keeps us
Yeah.
practicing all year, keeps me reading magazines and figuring out how to play this game, this hunting chess match in the woods better and better. So that is a real passion of mine. Sure.
Love it. I love it. Well, Ken, thank
I,
you.
I need to ask you. Now, you've been
Oh,
asking all the questions.
whoa. Now we're going to
Right.
interview Jess. That's not on the script. Hold
Oh
on a
no,
second.
that's not what I signed up for.
So I need to know Nick and I need to know Jess. What would you consider your key hobby?
Ooh, so I'll let Jess go first. I'll let Jess
Yeah.
go first.
Okay, I'm gonna say two. One, I love to read. I'm always reading. I've got the Kindle
Right.
app on my phone, and because of that, I feel like I'm able to read many more books than I had, especially during and right after law school. I'd kind of given up, but I love just very typical like fiction, thriller, mystery, and I read kind of as all the time, anytime I can. My second one, and this is a very basic hobby, is I'm really into mahjong right now. I do not know if that has
Oh,
swept your parts of the country yet. I believe it started most recently kind of down in Texas and worked its way up to Oklahoma. It's the ancient Chinese game of mahjong with the tiles, and
right.
it's super fun. It's a wonderful social event. I play multiple times a week with multiple different groups of people. Um, Mostly sit around, have drinks, and talk, but in the middle, we're playing a small game. So that's my current obsession. What about you, Nick?
I love getting Jess's updates on Instagram because she always finishes a book and she gives the stars. And I share with my wife because my wife reads a ton. And they're very like-minded, so it's fun to watch that. So right now I have a 13-month-old and I have one on the way. So I'm just entrenched in running after the little guy. But my wife, God bless her, has let me get out of the house a little bit. So we for years have loved going out and pheasant hunting. That's a big one of mine, going out to
Mm.
South Dakota or down in Iowa and southern Minnesota. Just love getting out there. It's kind of like you can. It's a little bit of walking, getting out in the nature, just getting that fresh air, birds in the field, or just having just a nice sunset by the trucks. There's just nothing better than that. The second that Rich McLaughlin got introduced to back in January was ice fishing. I've loved absolutely getting into that now since moving up to the state of Minnesota and have loved it up here. So we're actually thawing out right now in Minnesota. It's in the 50s, so we're not going to have ice for too much longer, but different parts of the year, that's what usually I'm doing.
Well, let's do a swap. I'll come ice fishing with you sometime, and you come down here to South Carolina and do some whitetail hunting or duck hunting, and we can make that happen. And Jessica, not to leave you out of the conversation, you are most welcome to come along as
Jess is
well.
coming. Jess is coming.
I will read along the campfire.
Yes. Yes.
After you guys come back, I'll make some chili with that elk you're gonna kill
Oh,
for
Perfect.
me
yes,
again,
It's
and then
perfect.
I'll read you all a story. How's that?
that
Ice
is great.
ice fishing is good for everyone. I'm telling you, you have the time of your life, Jess. You have the time of your life.
Oh, they mention it on Titanic, which was, it still is my number one favorite movie of all time. So I am 100% in for ice fishing.
We'll get it on the calendar. Well, thank you again, Ken Wingate, ladies and gentlemen, the chair of the U.S. Law Network, live in the flesh here in our episode. Ken, thank you so much for finding time to sit down with us. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, thanks for joining us on U.S. Law Live.
Thank you.
Thank you.